Welcome to Quiet Universe. Today we're about to turn up the heat with a deep dive into the world of fire, but not in the way your science teacher might have taught you. We're talking sparks, challenges, and some seriously lit alternatives. First up, we'll tackle the burning question. What exactly is fire? It's not just for roasting marshmallows or starting campfires. Fire's got a hotter backstory than you might think, and we're going to fan the flames of curiosity to uncover it. Next, we'll put ourselves to the test. How tough is it to create fire without modern tech? Imagine being stuck in the wilderness with nothing but your bare hands and a lot of determination. Could you get a flame going? Or would you just end up blowing a lot of hot air? But here's where it gets really interesting. What if humans never figured out how to make fire? Would we still be rubbing sticks together in the dark? Or would we have invented some other brilliant methods to keep warm? Spoiler, the alternatives might make you appreciate that box of matches a whole lot more. Speaking of alternatives, we've got a few ideas that are sure to ignite your imagination. Let's just say, some are hotter than others, and a few might leave you cold. So, whether you're a fire starter or just here to fan the flames of curiosity, get ready for a video that's going to spark some serious thoughts, right here on Quiet Universe. So, what exactly is fire anyway? That wildly unpredictable chemical reaction humans decided to worship because it conveniently burns things, cooks food, and keeps them warm, all while threatening to destroy everything they hold dear. Yet they still can't get enough of it. You know, the thing that somehow transformed from a random, uncontrolled natural phenomenon into the single most overhyped discovery ever. I mean, who wouldn't be thrilled about a basic chemical reaction that burns things up, right? Back in the day, some brave soul probably saw half a forest go up in flames and thought, hey, this looks dangerous and totally out of control. Let's see if we can tame it and call it progress. And boom, suddenly fire is the hottest, pun absolutely intended, topic around, becoming the ultimate human obsession because, well, who doesn't love playing with something that could literally burn their life down? But how tough is it to conjure a fire from scratch without modern tools or gadgets? Imagine yourself deep in the wilderness, armed with nothing but a couple of sticks and a stubborn determination to conquer nature's most elusive element, fire. The idea of making fire without any modern tools might seem straightforward, almost instinctual, as if all it takes is a bit of elbow grease and some primal know-how. But once you're out there, the reality hits. This is no easy task. It's like challenging the sun to a staring contest, thinking you've got a chance, only to realize just how naive you've been. You start with the basics, rubbing those sticks together with all the intensity of a caveman who's just discovered friction. At first, it feels like you're on the brink of something monumental, like you're about to unlock an ancient secret that has eluded humanity for centuries. But as the minutes drag on and your hands begin to blister, the romantic notion of sparking a flame gives way to frustration. The sticks seem to mock you with every stubborn grind, refusing to offer even the faintest hint of smoke. Still, you press on, convinced that you're just one stroke away from success. Your movements grow more desperate, more frantic, as the realization dawns that this is less about skill and more about sheer luck, or perhaps some long-forgotten ritual you've neglected to perform. Then, just as you're about to give up, a tiny wisp of smoke curls up from the sticks, and your heart skips a beat. Could this be it? Could you have actually done it? But the battle isn't over yet. That fragile ember is now in your hands, and it's more temperamental than a houseplant in the desert. Every breath of wind feels like a potential disaster, every movement a risk of snuffing out that tiny flicker of hope. You cradle the ember like it's the last surviving piece of civilization, nurturing it with the care and caution usually reserved for newborns. But keeping it alive is another challenge entirely. The ember seems to demand more than you can give, consuming your focus, your energy, your very willpower. It's a delicate dance between feeding the flame and smothering it, a balancing act that requires more patience than you thought possible. And yet, despite your best efforts, there's a moment when you realize that the ember is fading, slipping through your fingers like sand. You watch, helpless, as the glow diminishes, until all that's left is a faint wisp of smoke and a pile of charred wood. It's a bitter defeat, one that leaves you questioning your place in the grand scheme of things. For all your effort, for all your determination, nature has once again proven its dominance, reminding you that some battles aren't meant to be won. In that moment, you can't help but marvel at the sheer power of fire. How something so simple can be so stubbornly difficult to create. It's a humbling experience, one that forces you to respect fire for what it is, a force of nature, unpredictable and untamable, capable of both sustaining life and destroying it. And as you sit there, nursing your sore hands and bruised ego, you begin to understand why our ancestors revered fire so much, why they saw it as both a gift and a curse. So, after all that effort, you might just decide that fire is best left to those who can control it, or better yet, to those who invented matches and lighters. Maybe there's something to be said for keeping a safe distance and appreciating fire for its warmth and light, without the need to prove you can master it. Because sometimes, survival isn't about conquering the elements. It's about knowing when to step back and admire their power from afar. Now, let's come to the main question. What if nobody knew how to conjure a fire? That would be just brilliant, wouldn't it? Imagine we'd all be sitting around in the dark, freezing our toes off, in a world where nobody had the slightest clue how to conjure a fire. Picture it, humanity in all its supposed glory, stumbling around in the dark like some kind of prehistoric comedy show. We'd be huddled together, shivering like wet puppies, staring at sticks and rocks with a level of confusion that could only be rivaled by a toddler trying to figure out quantum physics. The great outdoors? Forget about it. Camping trips would be an absolute disaster. You think you're going to roast marshmallows? Think again. Instead, we'd be sitting around cold, lifeless twigs, attempting to convince ourselves that raw marshmallows are just as good. And those survival shows? They'd be nothing more than a parade of miserable people freezing their backsides off, rubbing sticks together with all the hope in the world, only to be met with utter failure. The climax of each episode would be watching them finally give up and start chewing on raw meat, all while pretending it's some sort of high-end raw cuisine. That's totally the next big trend. Speaking of food, let's talk about that culinary revolution. Without fire, our ancestors would have had a culinary experience that's less master chef and more caveman chic. Forget about that juicy steak or a warm bowl of soup. Our ancestors would be gnawing on raw meat and unseasoned roots like it's the peak of gastronomy. The whole idea of cooking food to make it safe and tasty, that would have been a distant dream, a fantasy that only the most imaginative minds could conjure. But hey, at least we'd all have excellent jaw strength from all that raw chewing, right? And what about winter? Oh, the joy of it. We'd be bundled up in every animal hide we could find, still freezing to death because, surprise, fire is what actually keeps you warm. Instead of gathering around a cozy fire, we'd be huddled together in dark, cold caves, desperately hoping that the frostbite doesn't set in before morning. Social bonding would take on a whole new meaning. Less about telling stories and more about collectively shivering in silence, praying that the sun would hurry up and rise already. Then there's the small matter of survival. We humans like to think we're at the top of the food chain, but without fire, we'd be more like an all-you-can-eat buffet for every predator out there. Nights would be an absolute horror show, while our ancestors would have normally gathered around a fire to keep the wolves and other hungry creatures at bay. Without it, we'd be easy pickings. Imagine the thrill of hearing something rustling in the bushes, knowing full well that you have absolutely no way to defend yourself. It's like living in a never-ending horror movie where the monsters are real, and the best weapon you have is a mildly sharp stick. In this fireless world, even the smallest things we take for granted today would be impossible. Forget about metalworking, pottery, or even basic tools, all of which rely on heat to be forged. We'd be stuck in a perpetual stone age, forever wondering what life could be like if only someone, anyone, could figure out how to make those stupid sticks burst into flames. So yeah, a world without fire? Absolutely brilliant. Just imagine how far humanity would have come, or, not. Would humanity really cease to exist? Are humans that dumb? Wouldn't there be other alternatives to mighty fire? Geothermal energy, the absolute pinnacle of human innovation. Who needs the primitive concept of fire when you can just settle next to a conveniently located scalding hot spring. The sulfuric aroma is just a bonus. Imagine the luxury of boiling your food in nature's very own cauldron. No more fussing over kindling and flames. Just throw your dinner into the nearest bubbling pit and let Mother Earth handle the rest. And if you're really lucky, you might get to wait hours, maybe days, for your meal to be ready. Who wouldn't want to live in a world where dinner is served on geothermal time? And then there's the brilliance of geothermal ovens. Why settle for instant gratification when you can dig a hole in the ground and pray it's warm enough to cook your food by the end of the week? Nothing screams culinary genius like a slow, natural heat that keeps you guessing whether your meal will ever actually be done. Sure, you might not have the pleasure of roasting marshmallows, but who needs those when you've got the thrill of potentially raw, earthy flavor cuisine? Now, let's talk about solar energy, the most obvious and superior alternative to fire. Why waste your time with a quick, reliable flame when you can spend your days worshiping the sun, trying to catch just the right angle to cook your food? All you need is a collection of shiny rocks, or maybe a crystal or two, and voila, you've got yourself a solar cooker. Sure, it's not exactly portable, and yes, you'll need to be in an open field on a cloudless day, but think of the satisfaction. Slowly watching your food get lukewarm under the gentle, loving rays of the sun is clearly the way nature intended us to cook. It's just so much more natural, don't you think? And forget fire for warmth. Why not just keep moving all the time? Friction, after all, is the ultimate in sustainable energy. Just rub those hands together until they're red, or better yet, invent some primitive hand crank device to generate heat. Who needs a cozy fire when you can work up a sweat just trying to stay alive? It's like the world's worst workout, but hey, at least you'll be warm for a minute or two. But wait, it gets better. Exothermic chemical reactions are the cutting-edge technology of a world without fire. Who needs the reliability of a flame when you can spend your time hunting down rare substances that might, if mixed just right, produce a tiny bit of heat? The thrill of possibly discovering a natural substance that generates warmth through composting is almost too exciting to handle. And let's not forget the potential to accidentally blow something up. That's a risk we'd all be willing to take to avoid the archaic simplicity of fire. Bioluminescence. Now there's a real game changer. Who needs firelight when you can go on a scavenger hunt for glowing fungi or bugs? It's the ultimate sustainable lighting solution, assuming you can find enough of them and they don't die out too quickly. Forget about a warm, flickering campfire. What you really want is the faint, cold glow of bioluminescent organisms to guide you through the night. Sure, it's not exactly bright, but who needs to actually see where they're going? And then there's the possibility of harnessing lightning for electricity. Fire? Buffed. Who needs it when you can stand out in a thunderstorm with a giant metal rod and hope to catch a bolt of lightning? It's the most practical and totally safe way to generate power. And once you've caught that lightning in a bottle, you'll have all the electricity you need, assuming, of course, you survive the experience. As for staying warm, why not just build your house underground? Earth-sheltered homes are all the rage when you don't have fire. Sure, you'll be living like a mole, but at least you'll be moderately less cold than if you were outside. And for those living in colder climates, why not embrace the joy of ice or snow structures? Igloos are the perfect solution. Who needs a fire when you've got layers of ice to keep you cozy? When it comes to cooking, who needs fire when you can just embrace the raw food movement a few thousand years ahead of schedule? Fermentation and preservation are where it's at. Just think of the robust, tangy flavors of food that's been pickled or salted to within an inch of its life. Who needs the warmth and comfort of cooked food when you can chew on tough, raw meat like a true pioneer? And if you're really desperate, why not harness the wind and water? Windmills for heat are the next big thing. Just build a massive contraption to generate a tiny bit of warmth through friction. It's efficient, it's reliable, and it's so much better than a simple fire. Or maybe you could rely on hydropower, using water wheels to create mechanical heat. Because nothing says progress like relying on a river to stay warm. Finally, let's not forget the ultimate in alternative warmth, domesticated animal heat. Why sit by a fire when you can just snuggle up to a bunch of animals? It's natural, it's organic, and it's a fantastic way to ensure you're always covered in fur and dander. Who wouldn't want to share their living space with a herd of animals for the sake of staying warm? And if all else fails, just heat up some stones with your body heat and hope they stay warm long enough to stave off frostbite. After all, who needs the simplicity of fire when you've got so many other, far more complicated and less effective options, right? Okay, let's get serious. These were some of the easily achievable ones. But what if humans were even more daring and had just a little bit more of that reckless courage? Imagine the incredible, totally not flawed inventions we'd come up with. Brace yourself for these brilliant alternatives to fire. 1. Lightning rod power plants. Imagine skipping the hassle of gathering firewood or igniting a simple match. Why not reach for the heavens and harness the raw, untamed power of lightning instead? Picture yourself standing on a hilltop during a thunderstorm, clutching a towering metal rod as lightning crackles ominously in the sky above. The air is thick with anticipation, and you can't help but wonder if this is your moment of glory or your final stand. The concept is simple. Capture a lightning bolt, and you've got yourself a one-time burst of energy potent enough to power your gadgets or maybe heat up a bowl of soup, assuming you're still in one piece to enjoy it. Of course, there's a teensy chance you'll be instantly vaporized, leaving nothing behind but a pair of smoldering boots. But where's the excitement in life without a little risk? Why settle for the consistent warmth of fire when you can play the ultimate game of chance with nature's most unpredictable force? And if you do manage to survive this electrifying ordeal, imagine the bragging rights. Who needs a reliable source of heat when you can harness the very power of Zeus, even if it's just for a split second? 2. Volcano hot tubs. If sitting around a campfire sounds too mundane, why not take relaxation to a whole new level? Right into the molten heart of a volcano? Imagine trading in your ordinary hot tub for one filled with bubbling magma, the Earth's most fiery and untamed element. Just picture yourself soaking in the scorching, molten rock, letting it melt away the stress of the day and possibly the flesh from your bones. It's the ultimate in high-risk relaxation, where every dip could be your last. But what's a little incineration compared to the thrill of bathing in Earth's primordial soup? Sure, there's a chance you could end up as a human fondue, but think of the stories you'd have to share. Well, if there were any remains left to share them. You'll never complain about the water being too cold again. And hey, you'll have the warmest, most permanent tan anyone could ask for. So why settle for a boring spa day when you can dive headfirst into a pool of liquid rock? It's the ultimate way to feel the heat, literally. 3. Nuclear bonfires. Tired of the same old campfire experience? How about spicing things up with a glowing nuclear bonfire? Picture this. You and your friends gathered around a reactor core, basking in the eerie green glow of radiation. Sure, there's a slight risk of developing a third eye or an extra limb, but who's counting? The upside? You'll never run out of fuel. These babies burn for thousands of years, and while there might be a tiny chance of an explosion or a meltdown, that's all part of the fun, right? Imagine roasting marshmallows over a fire that's hot enough to melt steel, your s'mores glowing with a faint, unearthly hue. Of course, the marshmallows might end up more radioactive than roasted, but that's just a bonus for those who like to live dangerously. And if someone mentions radiation poisoning, that's just a myth for the faint-hearted. After all, nothing brings people together quite like the warm, inviting glow of a nuclear inferno. Who needs the simple, predictable crackle of wood when you can huddle around a fire that could outlast humanity itself? Just be sure to keep a Geiger counter handy and maybe some lead blankets, just in case. 4. Harnessing earthquakes for warmth. Ever feel like your heating system lacks a bit of excitement? Why not crank things up a notch and harness the raw power of an earthquake? It's simple. Set up giant mechanical devices on fault lines and wait for the earth to do its thing. As the ground shakes and rumbles beneath you, these devices could generate heat through friction, enough to warm you up, at least for a moment. But there's more to it than just warmth. There's the thrill of knowing that at any moment, the ground beneath you could split open, swallowing your entire operation whole. Sure, your carefully constructed setup might collapse into a crevice, but think of the warmth you'll feel, both physically and metaphorically, as you flirt with disaster. And if the earthquake is big enough, You might even get a bonus adrenaline rush as your surroundings crumble and crash around you. It's the ultimate way to live on the edge. Literally. Why settle for a boring old radiator when you can harness the Earth's most violent forces to keep warm? It's a heating system with a built-in thrill ride, perfect for those who like their warmth served with a side of danger. 5. Solar death rays. Who needs a simple fire when you could wield the awesome power of a giant solar death ray? Imagine building an enormous magnifying glass in the sky, perfectly positioned to focus the sun's rays into a searing beam of light capable of incinerating anything in its path. Need to light a fire? Just aim the ray at a pile of kindling, and poof, it's ablaze in seconds. The downside? There's a slight risk of accidentally frying everything around you, including your house, your pets, and maybe even your entire neighborhood. But hey, that's a small price to pay for the convenience of having the sun's full power at your disposal, right? And if anyone complains about the sudden string of scorched earth incidents, you can just point out that they're not thinking big enough. After all, nothing says progress like harnessing the star's nuclear furnace to cook your food or your neighbors if they get too close. So why limit yourself to a boring, controlled fire when you can turn the sun itself into your personal flamethrower? It's the ultimate in solar energy, hot, fast, and utterly uncontrollable. 6. Lava-powered cities. Who needs a traditional heating system when you can build an entire city on top of a river of molten lava? Picture a metropolis where the streets glow with the fiery light of liquid rock flowing beneath them. Forget about chilly winter nights. Your home will be toasty warm all year round, thanks to the constant heat radiating from below. Of course, there's a minor risk that your entire city could sink into the lava, turning everything into a smoldering ruin. But that's just a small detail in the grand scheme of things. And think of the bragging rights. How many people can say they live in a city literally powered by the Earth's molten core? Sure, there might be the occasional catastrophic meltdown, but that's just the price you pay for living on the cutting edge of heat technology. Plus, you'll never need to worry about snow or ice again. Just watch as the lava vaporizes anything cold that dares to approach. It's the ultimate solution for those who want to live life on the edge of a volcano, that is. 7. Tidal wave energy. Why settle for the steady warmth of a campfire when you can harness the sheer, destructive power of a tidal wave? Just set up massive turbines along the coast and wait for the next big wave to hit. When it does, the force of the water will be enough to generate a surge of electricity, enough to keep a light bulb on for a few minutes, at least. Sure, your village might get washed away in the process, but that's just the cost of innovation. And if the wave is big enough, you might even get to experience the thrill of riding the crest of destruction as it wipes out everything in its path. Who needs the boring reliability of fire when you can embrace the chaos of the ocean's mightiest force? It's the perfect solution for those who think conventional energy sources are just too tame. Just be sure to invest in some sturdy boats and life jackets. Things might get a little wet. 8. Black hole campfires. For those who find regular campfires too tame, why not venture into space and harness the energy of a black hole? Just imagine setting up camp near the event horizon, where the intense gravitational forces could theoretically generate enough energy to keep you warm. Of course, there's the slight problem of getting too close and being sucked into the void, but that's a risk you're willing to take for the ultimate campfire experience, right? The campfire itself would be like nothing you've ever seen. Fueled by the immense power of a black hole, it would emit a strange, eerie light, casting long, twisted shadows across the barren landscape of some distant planet. And while there's a chance you might get pulled into the singularity, never to return, think of the stories you'd have to tell, that if you could survive to tell them. It's the ultimate way to experience the universe's most extreme forces up close and personal. So, why settle for roasting marshmallows over a boring, ordinary fire when you could toast them in the glow of a cosmic abyss? Just don't get too attached to gravity. It might not be there for long. 9. Thermonuclear camping stoves. Cooking over a simple flame is so last millennium. Why not take things up a notch with a thermonuclear camping stove? Just imagine setting off a small thermonuclear device and watching as your meal is instantly vaporized in a flash of intense heat and light. Of course, there's the minor inconvenience of vaporizing everything else within a 10-mile radius. But that's just part of the fun. It's the perfect solution for those who think regular cooking is just too slow. No more waiting for your stew to simmer. Just push the button and watch as your meal and the surrounding landscape is instantly transformed into a cloud of radioactive dust. And if anyone complains about the fallout, just remind them that progress always comes at a price. After all, why settle for a boring old campfire when you can have a cooking experience that's literally out of this world? Just be sure to bring a lead apron and maybe some anti-radiation pills, just in case things get a little too hot to handle. 10. Artificial supernova lamps. For those who find regular lighting options a bit dull, why not create an artificial supernova to light up your night? Just imagine triggering the explosive death of a star, releasing an unimaginable amount of energy in the process. The resulting explosion would be absolutely spectacular, lighting up not just your room, but possibly the entire solar system. Of course, there's the slight downside of the explosion destroying everything within several light years. But that's just a minor detail when compared to the sheer brilliance of the light show. And think of the possibilities. No more boring, flickering candles or weak LED bulbs. With an artificial supernova, you could have the brightest, most awe-inspiring light source in the universe, assuming you're not vaporized in the process. It's the ultimate in high-energy lighting, perfect for those who think regular lamps are just too boring. So why settle for a dim, ordinary light when you could light up the cosmos with a bang? Just be sure to enjoy the show. It might be the last one you ever see. And with that explosive thought, we're wrapping up this journey through the wild, unpredictable, and downright bright ideas that make us appreciate fire for what it truly is: simple, reliable, and thankfully a lot less hazardous than some of the alternatives we've explored today. If this video sparked some new thoughts or just made you smile, don't let the fire die out. Give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more illuminating content from Quiet Universe. Thanks for joining us, and remember, sometimes it's the simplest things that keep the world turning.